Hello and welcome everyone to the Polity Primer series of Drishti IAS. My name is Pragya and today we'll be discussing about money bill versus finance bill. In this discussion, we'll see the differences in these two bills and we'll also see how are they passed in the parliament. Before we proceed further, let us analyze the points of discussion of our today's session. So firstly, we'll see the background of the topic or the context in which we are having this discussion today. Then we'll understand the legislative procedure in the parliament. Then we'll see what is a finance bill. We'll also see what is a money bill. Then we'll also understand the difference between a finance bill and a money bill. We'll also see how are money and financial bill passed in the parliament. We'll also see the view of the Supreme Court in this regard. And we'll also see a practice question for your prelims examination and a practice question for your mains examination. So now let us proceed further to see the background of our today's topic. It has recently been informed by the Parliament that the Digital Data Protection Bill has not been passed as a money bill. So now let us understand what are the legislative procedures in the Parliament, what is a finance bill and what is a money bill. So we have studied in the chapter of power sharing in our class 10th book of political science that the horizontal sharing of power is there between the three organs of the government. What are these three organs of the government? These are legislature, executive, and judiciary. So there is a power sharing between these three governments of the organs of the government, and this is known as the horizontal power sharing. It helps us to maintain the checks and balances by one organ on another organ. And in India, the law-making power is entrusted in the legislature. So how a law is made in India? That firstly it is tabled as a bill in the parliament. What is a bill? A bill is a proposal for legislation and it becomes an act or law when duly enacted. The legislative procedure is identical in both the houses of the parliament. So whenever there is a bill that is being tabled in either house of the parliament, it passes through same stages in both the houses of the parliament. And a bill can be further classified into a public bill, also known as the government bill, and then a private member bill. So what is the difference between a public bill and a private member bill? A public bill is introduced in the parliament by a minister, and a private member bill can be introduced by any other person who is not a minister as well. So a private member bill can be introduced by private members and a public bill can only be introduced by a minister. So this is a major point of difference between public bill and a private member bill. And further, the bill can be classified into 4 categories. What are these 4 categories? Let us see. So, firstly, there is this ordinary bill. What is an ordinary bill? For example, the parliament has to make a law on any of the matters that are listed in the union list or the state list or the concurrent list. So, if these the subject matters of these lists are involved, it is known as ordinary bill and it explicitly excludes financial subjects. So, how will you recognize that the bill is an ordinary bill? That if there are no financial subjects involved in it. Then there are financial bills, which are enumerated under Article 117 of our Indian Constitution. They are concerned with financial matters, but they differ from money bills. We'll see how they differ from money bills in our further slides. Then there are money bills. They are connected with financial matters such as taxation, public expenditure, etc. And they are enumerated in Article 110 of our Indian Constitution. Then lastly, there is Constitutional Amendment Bill. As it is clear for the from the title itself that it relates to the amendment of our Indian Constitution, and that is why it is known as the Constitutional Amendment Bill. So, a bill can be categorized into these 4 heads. Now, let us understand what is a finance bill. In general sense, any bill that relates to revenue or expenditure is a financial bill. if we try to understand by this by a help of a Venn diagram, let us see. So this is a big circle. This is financial bill of category 1. Then there is financial bill of category 2, and then there are money bills. Money bills. And this whole is known as the finance bill. So what do we understand by this Venn diagram? That the finance bill is divided into 3 categories. First is the finance bill of category 1. Then there is finance bill of category 2, and then there are money bills. So now let us study about what is finance bill of category 1. A financial bill of category 1 is a bill that contains not only or all the matters mentioned in the article 110, but also matters of general legislation. So finance bill 1 is money bill plus general legislation, matters of general legislation. Let us understand this by a help of an example. For example, the Aadhaar bill was introduced in the parliament during 2016 and 17. So though it was passed as a money bill, but in its true nature it was a financial bill, because not only it dealt with unique identification of every Indian citizen, it was also dealing with the public distribution system which exists in India, and that is why it was a category of financial bill 1. But though it was passed as a money bill, and that caused many controversies. So Aadhaar bill can be an example of a financial bill of category 1. Then there are central fund bill. So then there was this central fund bill which was introduced in the parliament, and it aimed to collect impose cess on the petrol and diesel vehicles which were running on the national highways, so as to maintain the national highways. So when it was introduced in the parliament, it was introduced under the financial bill category 1, because not only it dealt with imposition of cess, it also enumerated that how that cess will be collected, what will be the cess, for what purpose the cess collected will be used. So all of these also were enumerated in that bill, and that is why it is known as the financial bill of category 1. So in simple terms, financial bill of category 1 is money bill plus general legislation. For instance, a bill that contains borrowing clause but does not exclusively deal with borrowing. As I was explaining this, for example, this is also an example. For example, a bill is having a borrowing clause, but it does not exclusively deals with borrowing. It has some general legislation as well. So all of these bills will be categorized as financial bill of category 1. Now let us see the other categories. So article 117 clause 1 indicates that the bill makes a special provisions for any of the matters specified in clauses A to F of article 110 clause 1 can be introduced or moved only on the president's recommendation and cannot be introduced in the Rajya Sabha. So this is essentially talking about the money bill. So article 110 clause 1 enumerates 7 categories, and if a bill falls under 7 categories, in those 7 categories it is classified as a money bill. The first and the foremost characteristic of a money bill is that it can only be introduced in the Lok Sabha and it cannot be introduced in the Rajya Sabha. In fact, Rajya Sabha has a very limited power over a money bill. We'll see and understand what is a money bill in our further slides. Then examples of this first category of financial bills are money bills and other financial bills originating solely in the Lok Sabha. So money bill can also be a financial bill. We were studying that money bill is also a category of a financial bill. So what is the similarity between a money bill and a financial bill of category 1? That both of these can be introduced only in the Lok Sabha, and both of these require the prior recommendation of the president to be introduced in the Lok Sabha. So this is the point of similarity between a money bill and a financial bill of category 1. Then the second category of finance bill is dealt with under article 117 clause 3 of our Indian constitution. Kindly remember these articles as they can be useful in your prelims examination. Then such bills are more like ordinary bills. So financial bills of category 2 are more like ordinary bills. But what is the difference between an ordinary bill and a financial bill of category 2 is, financial bill of category 2, though they do not require the prior precedent recommendation, as we were seeing in the case of financial bills of category 1, but if the houses have to consider the financial bill of category 2, then precedent's recommendation is required. So this is the major difference between financial bill of category 2 money bills and financial bills of category 1. So financial bill of category 2 do not require the president's recommendation for introduction, but they require president's recommendation for consideration by the houses. And in all other aspects, they are more or less like an ordinary bill. If the both houses differ, in the case of financial bill 2, then a joint sitting of both the houses can be called by the president. Now let us see what are money bills. So a money bill is defined under Article 110 of the Indian Constitution. This I have mentioned before also, that they are enumerated in Article 110 of our Indian Constitution. Money bills are concerned with financial matters like taxation, public expenditure, etc. So whenever the government requires money, the government requires money for its proper functioning. So whenever it has to withdraw funds from the consolidated fund of India, whenever it has to withdraw some other amount of money for public expenditure, then this bill is categorized as a money bill. A money bill contains the imposition, abolition, remission, change or regulation of any tax according to the Constitution. So most of the taxation matters fall under the money bill. It can impose a tax, abolish a tax, remit a tax, change a tax or regulate the tax as well. So whenever the government wants to impose any new tax on the citizens, whenever the government wants to abolish any tax, for example, the government decides that no, the people who are earning more than 10 lakh will not be charged at 30%. They will be required to charge at 20% only, will charge only 20% of income tax on them. Then it is for making these changes, a bill is introduced in the parliament, and this bill is classified as a money bill. Then whenever the government wants to change the taxation system, then also it has to introduce a money bill. A financial bill becomes a money bill when it is exclusively falls under one of the 7 heads listed under Article 110 clause 1, which define money bill. So there is a difference between a financial bill and a money bill. So what is this difference? A financial bill to become a money bill has to fall under the 7 categories, 7 heads, which has been recognized under the Article 110 clause 1 of Indian Constitution, and if the financial bill falls under this 7 heads, it is known as a money bill. And moreover, a money bill is a financial bill which is certified by the speaker. So a money bill has to be certified by the speaker that okay, whenever we are sending the bill for the recommendation of the Rajya Sabha and the deliberation in the Rajya Sabha, a money bill will have a certificate from the speaker that this is a money bill. So what changes? The Rajya Sabha in this case has very limited power. It can only suggest recommendations, and if the recommendations are rejected by the Lok Sabha, then the bill is deemed to have been passed. And if within 14 days the Rajya Sabha does not act on the money bill, then also it is deemed to be passed by the both of the houses. So in the case of money bills, the Lok Sabha is more powerful than the Rajya Sabha, and Rajya Sabha has very limited power on a money bill, and that is why money bill is such a important bill that is introduced in the parliament. So this was all about money bills. Now let us see how finance bill and money bill differ from each other. So a major difference between money and financial bills is that while latter has the provision of including the Rajya Sabha, upper house recommendations, the former does not make their inclusion mandate. So in case of a finance bill, the Rajya Sabha can either reject the bill, amend the bill, suggest changes, which may or may not be accepted by the Lok Sabha. But in the case of money bill, the Rajya Sabha has a very limited role, as I was discussing before. Then the Lok Sabha has the right to reject the Rajya Sabha's recommendations when it comes to money bills. So what does this mean? That in the case of money bills, the joint sitting of parliament cannot be called. Why? Because the money bill can only originate in the Lok Sabha, and the Lok Sabha has the right to reject the recommendations of the Rajya Sabha as well. So that is why the provision of joint sitting, which is available in the case of financial bills, is not available in the case of money bills. And this is the major difference between a financial bill and a money bill. So now let us discuss how our financial bills and money bills are passed on in the houses of the parliament. So as money bills can be introduced only in the Lok Sabha, the Rajya Sabha role in its passing is restricted. So I was just explaining this before also, that the Rajya Sabha does have only 14 days time to act on a bill, and if it does not act on a money bill, it is deemed to be passed by both the houses of the parliament. But this is not the case in the financial bill. After being passed by the Lok Sabha, money bills are sent to the Rajya Sabha for its recommendation, and within 14 days it has to act. And if it does not act, it is deemed to be passed by both the houses of the parliament. So ordinarily every bill goes through 3 or 4 stages in both the houses of the parliament. Let us discuss what these 3 and 4 stages of deliberation and discussion in the houses of parliament are. First, reading. The introduction of the bill and its publication in the Gazette constitute the first reading of the bill. So whenever the parliament has an intention to table a bill or in the parliament, it has to first publish it in the official Gazette. Okay, so we are bringing these kind of bill. For example, the new Bharatiya Nyaya Sanhita, the Sakshar Sanhita, and the Nagrik Suraksha Sanhita 2023 have been published first in the official gazettes, and they are currently at the first reading stage. Then there is second reading. During this stage, the bills receives not only the general but also the detailed scrutiny and assumes its final shape. So what happens in the second stage is, the bill is deliberated and discussed heavily on the floor of the houses of the parliament, and this constitutes the final discussion and the deliberations in the houses of the parliament. So that is why this second reading is very important. Then there is third reading of the bill. At this stage, the debate is confined to the acceptance or rejection of the bill as a whole. So in this third stage also, the final, after concluding the final arguments in the second stage, then it is decided that whether the bill should be accepted or it should be rejected as a whole. So this is what happens in the second stage of reading and third stage of reading. In third stage, how does it differs from second stage? That in the third stage, the bill is not discussed. Only the matter that whether it has to be accepted or it has to be rejected is discussed. So it is only the third reading takes place only on this point. Then there is assent of the president. A bill cannot become a law if it does not receives the assent of the president. President has also power to send the bill back to the house. He can also exercise his veto powers over the bill. And so the president, if the bill has to become a law, it has to receive the president's assent, and thereafter only it can become a law. Now, what is the view of Supreme Court in this regard? So the passing of bills as money bills has become very frequent by the central government, and the Supreme Court has opined against this practice, that no, you cannot pass every bill as a money bill through the money bill channel just because you have majority on the floor of the Lok Sabha. So when in 2017 the Finance Act was passed, the Supreme Court 5 judges bench, constitution bench, headed by the then Chief Justice of India Ranjan Gogoi, struck down amendments to the 2017 Finance Act, which was passed as a money bill, altering the structure and functionings of various tribunals. So the 2017 Finance Act was passed through this channel of money bills, and the Supreme Court in this case rejected the amendments made to the 2017 Finance Bill. which altered the structures of various tribunals that are functioning in India, and directing the formulation of fresh norms for appointing tribunal members. The bench also comprising CJI Chandrachud, who is the current CJI of India, Chief Justice of India, D.Y. Chandrachud, along with Justice N.V. Ramana, Deepak Gupta and Sanjeev Khanna, ruled that the amendments were contrary to the principles envisaged as a constitution interpreted by the Supreme Court. So, the Supreme Court also observed that these changes which were being made in the functioning of the tribunals were contrary to the interpretation which has been given by the Supreme Court. So, this says that the Supreme Court in these cases has observed that every bill cannot be passed through the money bill channel, and it is in the judicial scrutiny of the Supreme Court. If it is passed, it can be subject to the judicial scrutiny of the Supreme Court. So, with this, we conclude our today's discussion. We have seen what are finance bill. We have also seen what are money bills. We have also seen what is the difference between the finance bill and the money bill. We have also seen how these bills are passed in the parliament. And we have also seen the view of the Supreme Court in this regard. Now, let us discuss a practice question for your prelims examination. So, the question is, consider the following statements. The nature of a bill, if it is certified by the Speaker of the House of People as a money bill, is not open to question in a court of law. The President of India has the power to question the nature of a bill to be taken as a money bill, even if it is certified to be so by the Speaker of the House. Which of the statement given above are correct? Now, let us see a practice question for your mains examination. Explain the process of legislation in the Indian Parliament for an ordinary bill. Discuss how a money bill is different from an ordinary bill. Kindly attempt this answer for your mains answer writing practice. I hope this session was insightful for you. If you found this discussion helpful, kindly like the video and subscribe to our channel for more updates. Thank you.